Welcome to the NBR Show. My name is Natasha Russell, aka NBR, and I'm your host. And what am I about? I'm all about inspiring, motivating, and empowering people like yourself, men and women, including myself, to become the best possible version of ourselves. And how do I do that? I'm a transformation coach, and I help you visualize. What do you really want? What's the vision? And then we create the strategy, because you know what, people, if you don't have a plan to succeed, how will you succeed, right? So now I help you create the strategy and then execute. And truthfully, so that's a lot of times where people fall off, is on the execution. So I do that. I'm also the principal and founder of NBR Strategic Solutions. And what do? We help brands get in the public eye. We work with small business owners and help them with create a brand strategy, And then last but not least, I'm a motivational speaker. So I'm all about speaking life, speaking things that are going to help us to, again, become the best version of ourselves. So today we have, like I said, a really great guest, a great topic, managing your finances. With COVID now, a lot of us have been forced to work from home. There are a lot of people who have lost their jobs, and finance is like the number one stressor right now. And so why wouldn't it be a great opportunity to have someone to come on and talk exactly about that? How to manage your finances. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So without further ado, let me do a little introduction to my amazing guest that will be joining me. Her name is Taz Rajan, and she has been in the finance industry for 18 years. She has an adult educator certificate. Taz is passionate about simplifying complex financial concepts for Canadians and enjoys getting tough conversations started in order to find the right solutions to move up and around, and solutions for you. She also is the community engagement partner at Bromwich and Smith, and she's been featured on Global TV, AM 77, and has been on the Aaron Sky Kelly Achievement Club. So in her spare time, what does she do for fun? She says she loves to facilitate personal development webinars. She loves to go to Canmore, enjoy the mountains. She loves to practice hot yoga, volunteering, networking, and reading. And so she's really big on talking about finance and helping others, to achieve their financial goals. So without further ado, hey, beautiful.
Hi, beautiful yourself. So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. How are you doing?
So good. It's not raining here just yet, but it's a little bit cloudy, so.
The rain was here, like it was heavily, and then now it's gone and the sun is shining. So I'm like, yay. That's what I love about Calgary, right? Is the weather.
Wait 5 minutes, it's gonna change.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, the sun's out. I'm happy. Like, let's keep it that way. But at the end of the day, we need the rain. Things are getting greener now, so it's nice. So I'm
It's true.
panicking, right?
I'll take the rain over the snow anytime.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, Taz. Thank you so much for joining me on the NBR Show on behalf of Bromwich and Smith, and we're going to be talking about finances today, managing your finances, a topic that's really important, I feel, is top of mind for many people around the globe, not just in Canada, but many people who have been affected by COVID and now have had to change potentially where they work, how they work, or if they even have a job, So why don't you talk a little bit about yourself and your role at BS.
My role at Bromwich and Smith is community engagement partner. And so what that means is that I get to engage with the community at large in terms of debt, finances, anything to do with financial literacy, really. And that can, it can come in different forms. It can be webinars like this. It could be through blogs. It could be things through media. You had said, I've been on Global TV and AM 770 and that kind of thing. So, we also do a lot of partnering with other businesses and nonprofits that are really working on that financial literacy piece. So really, I get to be the one that engages the community in that conversation that we want to have to normalize the conversation around finances and debt. Is that better?
Yeah, wonderful. You were breaking up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, for people that are just joining, feel free to tell us where you're logging in from, where you live. And if you have any questions as we start to chat, feel free to drop them in the comment section below and we'll get them answered. So again, talking about managing your finances. So I love what you do. Engagement is huge, like bringing in other community partners and sharing what you guys do and building those relationships. And so what do you love most about what you get to do every day?
Where to begin? How long do we have? No, I guess, like you had read in my intro that I love breaking down, the complex and simplifying it, right? And
Yeah.
then also taking things that maybe have like stigma or anxiety around them. I really like to work through and break those barriers, simplify things, just get real about our money. And what I love about this role is that I know that I actually get to make a difference in people's lives, right? Sometimes there's something that'll just come up in a webinar or that we discuss maybe in an interview, and it hits somebody right where they needed to, sort of just what they needed to hear, and help somebody get the help that they need. I absolutely love that. I love partnering with businesses and other people in the community like yourself that are passionate about helping people really to live their best life. And living your best life has so many different facets, finances being just one of them.
Mhm.
I think you also asked me why. Why do I love?
Yeah, why? What's your big? I love.
My why is that I have struggled a lot with money myself, with money and finances. I've been in the industry, like you said, 18, 19, I don't know, so many years. I started when I was 10 people.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, when did you start? Because it feels fun.
I was 10 and it's been 18 years since. That's my story and I'm going to stick to it. No. But I've struggled with finances, with budget, with debt. And so I love that the role that I have now with Bromwich and Smith,
Yeah.
I get to be one of the catalysts to maybe help somebody not go through the struggle that I went through. And that's like huge. If I can save someone a struggle, or if I can help them get out of that struggle a little bit faster, that just makes me so happy. It's a great why.
Right. And that's the thing, right? Is if you're doing something where you can help people based on your story, it's even more empowering, right? Because people relate to people that they know they can trust, and usually that's built by, can I relate to you? Like, have you been through something similar as I have? So how do I
Yeah,
know that I can trust that you can help me if you've never been in that situation? So I love what you said about,
exactly.
right? And yes, finances is just one component of, living your best life, but it's a very important component. If
Yeah, for sure.
your finance isn't good and it's not, you're stressed out about finances, it's really hard for you to show up in your best light as your best self. So I am passionate about what you guys do at Bromwich and Smith, and I'm so excited to be partnered with you. And I know we're doing a webinar, people. We'll be talking about that.
Yay.
But yes, June 3rd is just around the corner, a couple of days, so you want to join us for that. So tell me a little bit about, for those of the people that are on the line and who will watch this later, tell me about Bromwich and Smith. Like, what do you guys actually do? Who's the company? What are you guys about?
Yeah, great question. So Bromwich and Smith, we're licensed insolvency trustees. And what many Canadians don't realize is that licensed insolvency trustees are the only federally legislated way to have access to. Am I lagging? Are you good?
No, you're good. I'm just listening.
Okay, good. I wanted to double check. I'm like, oh, we need a sign for
Yeah, no. I'll
when
let
we're
you know. I'll let
lagging.
you know. No, you're good. I'm not lagging. I can hear you perfectly.
Great. So licensed insolvency trustees are the only ones that are federally legislated to basically help Canadians that are overwhelmed with debt actually have that debt forgiven. There's lots of different
Mm.
debt help options out there. Licensed insolvency trustees are the only ones that are, federally legislated. And once you get into a program with a licensed insolvency trustee, it's legally binding. And so there's, protection for someone who's in debt from their creditors. There's a certainty of a process. And so the biggest thing is we want to help Canadians that are feeling overwhelmed by debt to get out of that debt and to start rebuilding that future, start rebuilding that financial, their personal self-worth as well as their financial net worth. That's what Bromwich and Smith is all about.
Great. Love the mission. And that is an important one, right? Because people don't really like to talk about finances, especially when they are feeling overwhelmed. And in a time like now where, we're going through a pandemic and people are stressed out for many other factors, finance is like, who do you go to for help,
Absolutely.
right? And not feel judged because you need that help. So I love that you guys are doing that. And so anyone out there, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. I'll have Taz answer them. What would you say as far as, when should someone seek help from Bromwich and Smith? When is the good time?
Oh, That's the million-dollar question, Natasha. It's really interesting because we did a research study on sort of like the client journey, what happens. Like we're like going along, we have our job, we have our monthly expenses, we're good.
Yeah.
And then we get to this point where it's like, it's not great, but I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm managing. I'm all right.
Yeah.
And then there's this moment of truth. There's this moment at which, Canadians, North Americans, we come to this realization. It's this moment of truth where we're like, okay, there's a lot more months than money. Maybe I've, missed a couple of payments, or, I'm struggling to make my minimum payments. And we're going to talk about this on our webinar, on June 3rd. We're going to kind of talk about these 7 signs. But there is this moment of truth that we each will feel. And there's usually a gap between the moment of truth and the moment of action. And so I guess I would like to encourage Canadians that when you get to that moment of truth, that's the time to reach out to us, because reaching out to us, all it means is that you are going to find out what your options are, because you're going to get unbiased information. You're going to find out what your options are. You're going to get a bit of a recommendation on what to do going forward. So you're equipped now to make the most informed decision. That's all that reaching out means. I know, we used to be called bankruptcy trustees, and people sometimes say, oh, don't call a bankruptcy trustee. They're going to put you into bankruptcy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's not true, actually. It's a consultation. It's a no obligation, free, very personalized consultation. I love that you talked about judgment, because it's a judgment-free consultation. We're all about treating people with grace and respect, and not having judgment, because a lot of us that are at Bromwich and Smith have had, we've all struggled with our finances. It's interesting that when we're going through it ourselves, we feel like we're the only ones, but we're not. 49% of Canadians are in some way, shape, or form struggling to pay their debts. So you're not alone.
What was
so
that?
The best time...
Sorry, Taz, I missed that. What was the percentage of Canadians struggling with debt?
49%.
49%. Wow.
Yeah, and that's probably spiked a little bit since COVID, right?
Yeah, that's a lot. I have a question for you from someone out there, Authentic Caribbean Cooking.
Yeah.
So it says, how long does it take for you to fix your credit if you have bad credit? What does that look like? Great question.
That is a really great question. Thanks, Authentic Caribbean Cooking. I'm so interested to see what kind of cooking that is. I like me some Caribbean food. So really great question. And actually on our website, I'm sure we'll leave that at the end. We have some great webinars on credit repair. So it really depends on what situation is going on. And we are going to talk about that on our webinar a little bit more. Suffice to say, most negative things that are going on with your credit, they are going to stay on your credit report for 6 to 7 years. So whether that's late payments, whether that's collections, whether that's a consumer proposal or a debt repayment, or a bankruptcy, they all actually remain. So what I believe really is the underlying question when people ask, how do I fix my credit? How long does it take? Really what you're wanting to know is, will I ever be able to get best rates and best terms? Or how long before I'm able to get best rates and best terms, right?
Yes.
So that's really the underlying question. And generally speaking, we have a credit expert that we work with. Generally speaking, if you have 2 years that you have been rebuilding your credit, so there's ways to do that, 2 years of good credit, and you're going to qualify for best rates and best terms.
Okay, that's good to know. So it's not that long. Oh my gosh, if it's on my credit report, I have to wait 6, 7 years for it to be gone before I can start applying for stuff. But 2 years of rebuilding and just showing creditors that you can pay your bills and on time, of course. Great.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks for asking. Great question, Authentic. And yeah, you have to check their link. I'm sure they do delicious food. I love food. I'm a foodie for sure.
Me too. We have that in common for sure.
So question for you, just reference what you talked about, how BSI helps their, what you guys stand for and your mission. What would be the ideal client if you guys had one that would work with Bromwich?
Such a good question. And it's a question I get asked so often. And truthfully, Natasha, debt doesn't discriminate against age, gender, race, your income level, your job status even. I mean, debt it doesn't discriminate against any of that. So that's not a really easy question for me to answer, to sort of be like, listen,
Yeah.
people that are this age, this background, kind of have this income level. No, because at Bromwich and Smith, we've helped people that are, right at that poverty line. We've helped people that were CEOs of oil and gas company and everyone in between. So truthfully, I would say the ideal client is somebody who is actually at a point where they're at that moment of truth. They're seeking unbiased information, and they're wanting to do something about it. That would be an ideal client. Somebody that realizes they're a little bit in too deep, not sure what's the best option for them, so want to learn about those options, but someone who's like ready to do something and get out of that crushing debt feeling.
Right? That's really, yeah, I know. I'm like, it's hard to like put them in like, ideal client, right? Essentially anybody who's struggling with debt. If you're struggling to pay your bills and like you're living month to month and you're barely making ends meet, yesterday is probably the time to seek out help from BSI and say, hey, what can I do? This is what I'm in and I need help, right? And I think that's the issue sometimes, is that people are scared to ask for help. And going
For
back to
sure.
fear of judgment, and you talked about helping people from the CEOs to the poverty line. Like, it is true, debt does not discriminate. And so if you need help, the best thing is to get it, and to know that you're not alone, because 49% of Canadians are struggling with debt, people. So you're not alone. And there is a way out. That's the great thing, is that there is a solution, right?
Yeah.
To actually dig
Yeah.
your way out of that hole and rebuild your credit, rebuild your worth, and to live that life where financials are not a burden. And so I love that.
Exactly.
Okay, so great, great, great. So I'm going to ask you, I know we're going to have a webinar, but for people who are out there, what is some advice you may give them around how to manage their finances, things that they should be doing if they're not already doing it?
Yeah, for sure. And we are going to talk more about it at the webinar on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But I can give you 3 key points right now. The
Awesome.
number one thing that you can do, first of all, before you can manage or change or update or, really do anything about your finances, the first thing we got to do is take stock, right? Like we got to get a baseline. It's kind of like I've struggled with weight loss all my life as well. So I can speak to that as an analogy, right? Like
Yeah.
if you go to the gym, which I know COVID we can't do right now, but just go with me here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm following you. Yeah.
You go to the gym, there's someone that's willing to be your personal trainer. What's the first thing you do? The first thing you're going to do is get a baseline. Okay, let's measure, let's weigh, let's do a cardio test, let's test this, right? We kind of get that baseline. So I say the first thing to do, figure out your baseline. Make sure you know what your numbers are. So many of us Canadians, actually, probably North Americans really, don't even have a budget. And there is no like one budget fits all either, right? Some people like to use an app on their mobile phone. Some people like a traditional Excel spreadsheet. I mean, find what works for you. Pen and paper, like whatever. I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
But essentially a budget is just taking stock, getting that baseline of what is all the income sources that are coming in and what are all my expenses. You want to look at fixed expenses and variable expenses and just get baseline. And when you do this, I want you to not be judgmental of yourself. Just write it down as facts. Full-time job, this much. Side hustle, this much. Alimony or child support, this. I mean, whatever's all the income that's coming in. And then you kind of want to go through, okay, rent, car payment, gas, whatever. Just get that all down on paper. And a lot of times that requires somebody, tracking their spending over a 3-month period. I know when I first did this activity with a couple, it was a couple and their 2 kids, and they thought, roughly they're spending about $75 a month on Starbucks between, taking the girls to their classes and whatnot. And then when they tracked it for 3 months, it turned out they were spending $400 a month at Starbucks. And again, no judgment. Maybe $400 at Starbucks is what you need to keep your family like sane and, on track. But it was just about that awareness, right?
Awareness is key. Awareness is key. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have budgets. So that's number one. Tip number one.
That's tip number one.
Before you go to tip number 2, just for people who may not know the difference between fixed and variable.
Yep. A fixed expense is something that is exactly the same every single month. So for most of us, our rent or mortgage payment doesn't change. If you have a car loan payment, it doesn't change. So you know exactly what it is. But variable things could be maybe your cell phone or your utilities bill, your credit card or your line of credit. Maybe it goes up, maybe it goes down. Like it's those things that groceries, like let's be honest, pre-COVID grocery bill versus in the pandemic grocery bill, it's quite different. And maybe, you know, the eating out is a little bit smaller, but for most of us, our grocery bill has really gone up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
that's a variable. Good question. Really good question.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so tip number 2.
Tip number 2, this is something I'm stealing from like the corporate world, okay? So corporations, you know, as they start and they launch their, you know this very well, Natasha, one of the things that a corporation or someone that's becoming business for self will do before they get into any kind of, you know, trouble or anything like that is create an emergency response plan, an ERP. So that's okay, worst case scenario, or here are like 5 worst case scenarios. If these things were to happen, what's our emergency plan?
Yes.
Right? So that's like you're in a calm place, you're future oriented, you can really think very logically and very rationally and work out this plan so that when that emergency does strike and you know we're not necessarily able to be as rational, it's just a matter of okay, here's the plan, now we just put it into action. We don't at that point need to start trying to think of what am I going to do, right?
Right.
So on the personal side, what does that mean? You know, for me on a personal side, that means you got to be the quarterback and you got to build a team around yourself. And that team is going to include, you know, an insurance broker probably, maybe a financial planner, maybe a mortgage broker, someone that's a debt specialist, like a licensed insolvency trustee. You want to get these people, you know, build your team and you want to look at, okay, worst case scenario in my relationship, worst case scenario in my health, worst case scenario with my finances, right? Get that all figured out, talk to the experts in those fields and have that plan in place. And of course, one of the things for that plan is, you know, have a little emergency fund, and that's going to look different for each person and in different stages of your life. I know David Ramsey will say, baby step 1, emergency fund is $1,000. I know there's other financial planners that say, listen, that emergency fund better be a year's worth of your salary. So
right. It varies.
It varies, right? Some people have probably tapped into their emergency fund right now during COVID, maybe before they got their CERB or, you know, as a supplement to their CERB, they maybe already started tapping into that emergency fund, but at least they had it, right? So that's number 2. Number 1 is take stock, get that baseline. Number 2, emergency response plan. And number 3, can I get a drum roll? Thank you. Number 3 is I kind of alluded to that in number 2 is, you know who are the experts that you need to be reaching out to? Who are the experts that you can ask questions to? Who are the experts you're going to go to when you need to execute that emergency plan? It's really important to know, you know, especially when we talk about debt, because debt has so much stigma attached to it. I think quite often we'll want to be very secretive, anonymous. We'll kind of go to the internet. And there are some great resources on the internet, and there are a lot of trolls on the internet. There's a lot of, you know, companies that target that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's important to really know, like, you need to be looking for the people in those fields that have the designation, that have good Better Business Bureau ratings, that have legitimate reviews that are great, that are not charging you fees up front just for a consultation. It's really important to know who to reach out to.
Those are really great tips. Really great. For anyone who's asking questions thank you for sharing. Feel free to drop them in the comment section if you have any questions for Taz at all. We're just getting to wrap up here, but we are going to be doing a webinar. We're going to get to that. But how do people reach out or connect with Bromwich and Smith?
Yeah, lots of different ways, actually, especially with this pandemic. We are very, very virtual. Nobody needs to come into our offices and risk their health or ours. So we have our website, www.bromwichandsmith.com.
Okay.
You can also email us at inquiries@bromwichandsmith.com. Follow us on Instagram and all our social media channels, of course. And then also our toll-free number, which is 1-800-516-6766. 7417 extension. I mean, and then press 2 for help.
Your
Sorry.
extension, weren't you?
I totally was. Do you want me to put all this in the comments here?
You can if you want, but what I can do is put it in the after wrap up video, but because this will go away. So why not? We'll include it in the wrap up video. I'll do that.
Okay, lovely.
Sounds good. Okay, so as we're wrapping up, you know what question I'm going to ask you next? What are some webinars or
Ah.
that people can join in with Bromwich and Smith to help them around, you know, maybe debt recovery or creating a budget or whatever that might look like? What are you guys working on right now for the month of June or July, August? What is it looking like?
Yeah, great. Of course, we've got our live Instagram webinar coming up on June 3rd at 12:30 Mountain Time. Super excited about that.
Yeah.
And that one's going to be the 7 signs, the 7 signs that you're overwhelmed by debt. So really, you know how you asked that question, like who's the ideal client and when do they reach out to Bromwich and Smith? In that webinar, we're going to talk about these are like the 7 signs that you can watch for. And if you're going through these signs, you need to reach out. We're here for you.
And just maybe it's not going to be a live, it's going to be a Zoom webinar.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that would be fun. But maybe we'll do that another time. But we're going to do a Zoom webinar, people. So how you can get it online or register online at natashabrussell.com, or you can go to, I'm sure you have something posted on your end.
We do.
On Eventbrite. So it's all there, but we'll have the details in the after video. I call it the after wrap-up show. And go and register, people. This is an opportunity for you to connect with Taz and I for a full hour. And she's going to present on, like you said, the 7 warning signs, you know, things to look out for to prevent you from going down that financial turmoil.
Absolutely.
To help before it's too late. And I'll be sharing some strategies to help you achieve your goals and your dreams, things that are proven. So I'm excited about that. So join in if you haven't. It's going to be 12:30 this Wednesday. And I look forward to, yes, Andrew, I hope you're in on that one. I saw you registered, so great. Okay.
Nice.
And then what other ones? So we have our event coming up. What other webinars do you guys have happening?
Yeah, and then on our YouTube channel, we did a whole Ask a Trustee webinar series. So it was about 8 different topics. So by June 15th, those will be available all edited and ready to go on our YouTube channel. So I would definitely check those out.
Wonderful.
Yep. And then I've got, I'm doing a collaboration with Your Mortgage Your Way out in Ontario. That's coming up as well. And what else? We are going to do another Ask a Trustee webinar. I don't have an exact date for it right now, so stay tuned. And, you know, we'll definitely put in our events link as well. But I'm excited about the one on June 3rd, our Zoom webinar coming up, because that's 2 powerhouses. We get to collaborate.
Yes.
You get to talk about, you know, people's goals and living your best life. And I get to talk about, hey, listen, if your finances are keeping you from living your best life, here's how you find out whether they are or not, and here's how you get some help around it. So I'm excited about that one for sure.
Me too. It's going to be great. And we got a lot of people registering for that already, so it's looking good.
Yay.
Our numbers are looking good. Yay. Okay, last but not least, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we wrap up today?
You are not alone. And let's break the stigma. You know, if we think about years ago, mental health and divorce were such taboo words, and you know, the conversation around it wasn't normalized. It was like this, like, hush, hush, you'd maybe tell 1 or 2 people. We wouldn't talk openly like this. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to a day, Bromwich and Smith looks forward to a day where we've just normalized this conversation around debt, where there isn't stigma or judgment or any like feeling of guilt or shame, but where we can just talk about it openly, because you're not alone. Absolutely, you're not alone. And there are ways to get way past and over it and just move on to so much of a better life. But it starts with us. We got to start talking about it.
It's true. Everything that we want, people, really begins with us. Like, we are the change, essentially. If you need the help, nobody can force feed you to take it. You have to actually go out and seek it and get what you need, you know. And finances, like you said, going back to that 49% figure of Canadians, potentially even more since COVID, who are struggling with debt. So you're not alone. You know, we grow up in a day and age where people are just, as soon as you turn 18, you get credit card applications in the mail. It's like we're sort of, you know, built to debt, you know. So don't beat yourself up if you are in debt and you're like at a place where you're scared or you're not able to make your minimum payments or more than your minimum payments, right? Or you're just living off, you know, credit cards or whatever that might look like. now is the time, people, to get your finances in order. And so I'm so happy and grateful for you today, Taz, to come in and share some things that people can do right now. And like you said, again, just remind you people who are just joining, you said number one, take stock, do your inventory, like know your numbers, you know, create the budget, you know, seek help from experts. There's a lot of people out there who are looking to prey on the vulnerable, you know,
Yeah.
right? And have that emergency plan. It's critical to do it now while you're in that, I say, the relaxed state, because when you're in the
Right.
stress state, oh my gosh, you can't think properly, right? So
Yeah.
you end up making decisions that are probably not the best for you. So, Taz,
Absolutely.
wonderful. Last but not least, I just want to remind you guys, to the people out there, Taz and I are tag teaming this Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Yes, we have a webinar happening. It's Strategize for Your Success, and the major topic is managing your finances, taking control of your finances. So
Yeah.
join us, and it's free. We forgot to mention that. There's no cost to you people except for you to show up on time with your pen and paper and be ready to learn. And so how do you get enrolled? Go on to Eventbrite or natasharussell.com, or check out Bromwich and Smith's contact information. They have a link there on their social media channel, and get registered, because on Wednesday, we are going to move the mark from where we are today to where we want to be tomorrow. All right.
You bet. Thanks, Natasha. So glad that you're helping to normalize this conversation. That's what we need more of, for sure.
Oh, thank you. You know, I said it's a tough topic, you know, but we need to have it, right? So thanks again for your time. We're at time, 4:36. Perfect. A little over. And I will see you on Wednesday. And the video will be available shortly after. I'll save it to my IGTV so you can share it on your platform as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks for everyone that tuned in.
Yeah.
See you all Wednesday.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. I'm so grateful for Taz. She is passionate about what she does. So again, if you missed out today, you just joined in. Today we talk about finances, money, right? You need money. You do. We need it. We need to live a life where we're not living paycheck to paycheck, where we have money in the bank, savings in the bank, where we have an emergency plan in the bank, and that we're not stressed out about finances. So if you need the help, again, reach out to Bromwich and Smith. They offer a free consultation, non-judgmental, there to help you create a plan, a strategy, and action to manage your finances. All right, beautiful people. So now you know what I'm going to say. Be confident. Be confident in who you are. Be fearless enough to pursue what sets your soul on fire. Be bold enough to own your greatness, but more importantly, be you. Because you know what? There is no one else in this world like you. So shine.